How XRP, XLM, and Algorand are part of the new European ledger. How does this technology all work? How does it connect? What is it going to mean for XRP holders and Ripple going forward? I want to get in detail on this, give you a ton of additional information, and really help you better understand what this new financial system is going to look like and how these three assets will play a big vital role in the days to come. And so Smoke Dog shared all of this. So it says a European ledger could bring together token versions of central bank money, commercial bank money, and other digital assets on a shared programmable platform, said Mr. Cipollone. In essence, this would see T2S Target 2 securities evolving into a DLT-based single financial market infrastructure for Europe, while central banks would provide the platform or the rails, so to speak. Market participants would supply the content or the trains. Target 2S refers to the EU high-value payment system used for the settlement of securities transactions and central bank money. It also says in the near future, utilizing open source technology to create fast peer-to-peer payment systems that gives consumers a quick and secure way to pay with just a single click. The Trans-European Automatic Real-Time Gross Settlement Express Transfer System, that is the Target acronym, in Europe has set the pace for standardized payments between investment banks by leveraging virtual currency infrastructures such as Ripple. Clearing and settlements could be decentralized, moving directly from one institution to another, speeding up transactions and reducing costs. Now, this is kind of what it looks like if you're trying to be like, Sensei, what does this look like? Here is the example. So you have the seller and the buyer here. And so this is giving an example of the DLT network. You have Algorand. Here's the seller account, the buyer account, and smart contracts. Goes to the Algorand protocol or the XRP, whatever you want to hear, seller node, buyer node. And it goes over here to the buyer bank and seller bank. And this is where it plugs into the payment system. Here's Target and tips and buyer bank account, seller bank account, site 1, 2, and 3. Actors of a cross-ledger DVP, seller owns assets on the Algorand DLT and wants to sell them to a buyer for an agreed amount in cash. The cash leg resides on a separate ledger, i.e. the tip system. And sometimes you're going to need a bridge asset to go in between network to network, right? And so, yes, the EURD programmable. Yes, you can use APIs for programming EURD transactions that support blockchains currently, Stellar and Algorand. Now, I wanted to go ahead and play this. I thought this was great. Bank of England committed to a proof of concept using Ripple's technology to explore currency settlements. When the UK begins adopting crypto at a large scale, Ripple is positioned to benefit.
Think about the FX market. More than half or nearly half of all FX volume comes through the United Kingdom. And the UK is a market that cannot be undenied. And the reason it got there was through adopting technologies in the first place. I really do hope this government can see the sense in adopting this stuff to improve not just the financial system, but everybody's lives as a result of it. And actually, when we look at Ripple, they're very well positioned. Again, this is from the Bank of England. Ripple proof of concept. This is back in 2017. Some of you have seen this, some of you haven't. It says, we carried out a proof of concept with Ripple to explore the synchronized movement of two currencies across different real-time gross settlement systems linked using Ripple Connect and the Interledger protocol. We wanted to demonstrate how this kind of synchronization might lower settlement risk and improve the speed and efficiencies of cross-border payments. I'm sure all of you have seen this. This, of course, is the report. The next thing I want to show you is in regards to the fifth largest bank here in the United Kingdom. This is Standard Chartered, complete strategic investment directly into Ripple. This is from their global head of Standard Chartered. It said, digitization is a key priority for the bank to facilitate trade, commerce, and investments. We can better serve our clients by connecting business communities in more efficient ways. Ripple is one of the most advanced distributed ledger technologies, XRP, companies in the industry with immense experience in financial services and compliance. Through this investment, we can leverage Ripple's expertise and co-develop more commercially viable applications to support the evolving needs of our clients and ecosystems. This is very interesting. They're also given a observer board seat. So Standard Chartered are on the sort of board of Ripple. Again, the fifth largest bank here in the United Kingdom, the central bank obviously being the largest that have explored Ripple's technology. This is from HSBC. HSBC partners with Ripple-owned Medico for tokenized securities custody platform. HSBC
If there is a financial market that moves a lot of value, Ripple is already there positioning itself to take full advantage when the switch comes. This is why I'm such a big fan of XRP, because even Brad Garlinghouse said that everything that Ripple does, XRP is basically the heartbeat. It's the most important thing. And then this stack, this is just some additional information off the information we just looked at before I play the clip. The stack is basically Europe's wiring DLT into target services, T2, T2S tips via neutral bridges, and XRP can slot into the same pattern as Algorand and Stellar for cross-ledger settlement and tokenized cash assets. What the image shows here is Target 2 and tips and the Eurosystem's large value and instant payment rails that are already handled the vast majority of Euro wholesale payments and security cash legs. Banco d'Italias, I can't do it. Experiments use trigger tips hash link style protocols to connect external DLTs, Algorand in the diagram, with tips so that tokenized assets on a DLT can settle delivery versus payment and central bank money on tips and T2. EURD is a regulated digital euro issued on Quantas, the programmable on Stellar and Algorand via APIs, effectively a euro e-money token on those chains. And how this architecture works, assets like bonds, securities, tokenized deposits, and stablecoins live on a DLT like Algorand or Stellar. The cash leg, the wholesale settlement, remains on the target services side. The trigger hash link protocol locks the asset on the DLT and simultaneously locks cash in tips. When conditions are satisfied, both legs are released, giving atomic DVP and PVP across ledgers. So if you're trying to sell an asset and the asset is, let's say, on the Algorand or Stellar blockchain, and the cash lives in the, the legacy side on the tip system, how does that all transact? When you say, yes, I will sell it, and this person says, yes, I will buy it, once the money goes in and all the conditions are met, the smart contract functions and those assets can move across those ledgers. The planned European ledger vision is to evolve T2S into a DLT-based single market infrastructure where central bank money, commercial bank money, and other digital assets coexist on a shared programmable platform. Central banks provide the base rails, of market participants provide the trains. Where XRP fits in technically here, if you're asking, the tips hash link trigger decision is explicitly DLT agnostic, so any ledger can run smart contract and locking logic and talk to the API gateway can plug in, not just Algorand. Industry reports note that Target 2 connectively provides like TAS support Ripple technology as one of the multiple protocols. TAS is a big payment infrastructure too, and they are connected to Ripple as well, meaning banks can already interface with Ripple rails with Target services, even if the ECB is not named XRP in the official DLT pilot. So XRP is already connected here through all of the things that Ripple has done. As Europe's unified DLT layer onboards multiple public chains, XRP, Stellar, and Algorand are being positioned as verified networks for tokenized money and assets in that environment, with XRP's edge being high throughput cross-border settlement and bridging between currencies and ledgers. Remember, XRP was really built for institutional use and Stellar is really aimed at the retail side. So I think that is going to play a role in the days to come. Now, this was a good clip here. This is Ripple's managing director of UK and Europe, Cassie Croddock, has officially confirmed the launch of a euro-backed stablecoin on the XRP ledger. Let me just give you a little taste of this.
I'm Cassie Croddock, managing director for the UK and Europe at Ripple. I've been at Ripple for 8 years now, so it's been quite the journey from, convincing banks to partner on a network to send cross-border payments, right through to being able to provide banks and financial institutions end-to-end digital asset infrastructure through payments, through custody, through stablecoin, and through tokenization use cases that we're going to talk about today. I think what's really been interesting from a Ripple perspective, I'm responsible for Europe, and I think what we've seen over the last year, 18 months, 2 years or so, is MiCA has really given banks and financial institutions this level of certainty to be able to lean into the blockchain and digital asset space. And so we've seen some really great innovative use cases on the back of that. So, we partnered with SocGen Forge, one of the leading banks here in France, firstly around custody, but now more broadly on issuing their Euro CV stablecoin on XRP Ledger. There are other, many other use cases that we're partnering, our customers are partnering with us on around money market funds and bringing those on chain. And we're actually seeing that trend continue to increase as we start to see more institutional interest in this space. On the Ripple side, we're solving kind of the trapped liquidity issue with our cross-border payment product and enabling financial institutions to better service their customers by enabling them to have instant real-time payments through a kind of network of partners that enables to move cash from A to B. Now that could be physical cash, it could be stable coins, it could be using XRP. And I think that's a really interesting, use case that we've seen mass adoption over the years from. And then just generally speaking, I think from our perspective, solving that cross-border payment problem was a first step. Doing that and building the infrastructure to be able to do that in a sophisticated way for banks and financial institutions just led us down the path of owning that kind of end-to-end digital asset infrastructure. And so the custody technology was really critical for us to acquire back in 2023 because we know that custody is the entry point. Before you do anything in digital asset, whether you're thinking about tokenization, whether you're thinking about payments or thinking about NFTs or whatever you're thinking about, you need to get your custody right and you need bank-grade custody. And so that critical piece of infrastructure is something that's now enabling us to partner with banks and financial institutions for them to tokenize, for them to create use cases that maybe we don't want to lean into, but to be able to use our technology to do that. I think it's really important, and Adelia and I, we work, given that we're the largest developer on the XRP Ledger, Ripple wants to solve institutional financial use cases, right? But we want to create ecosystems where developers are pushing the boundaries. And I think that's been really interesting to see how these developers or these financial institutions leverage our technology to be able to, I guess, drive the future of financial services forward. User experience, good user experience means that these, banks and financial institutions or consumers of these products, they need really good infrastructure to be able to power it. They need the right custodians, they need the right wallet, they need the right compliance tools to be able to really kind of power this on a truly global scale. And I think, there are early signs and indications that, both of these are in place, but I think we have we do have quite the journey to go in order to be able to really truly create this on a global scale.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're at home saying, I know this name, Cas Laurens. Where do I know it from? And you're right. This was the same person that went to Downing Street in September for the transatlantic partnership between the US and UK, which Ripple was present, right? Ripple's managing director, Cas Laurens, highlights the company's unique position, headquartered in the US and with significant UK presence, stating Ripple is poised to harness its transatlantic reach to accelerate tech and innovation between the two nations. And so you start to wonder here, what is Ripple and XRP's real role in this new evolution of the financial system? I've never seen a company mentioned more than Ripple when it comes to governments or central banks or even financial market infrastructures around the globe. Ripple and XRP cover 90% of the FX market. We pretty much have it locked down now as they gain this licensing and as we launch new stablecoins on the XRP ledger. It is only going to empower the XRP ledger even more to have dominance globally. And then, of course, Monica Long here. Great to welcome UK's Economic Secretary to the Treasury, Lucy Rigby, to Ripple's Singapore office to discuss how digital assets can boost UK's competitiveness and growth. The Economic Secretary of the Treasury of the UK is traveling to Singapore to meet with Monica Long to talk about UK's competitiveness and growth, building on its status as one of the leading financial hubs of the world. A lot of meetings happening with Ripple and their involvement here. Now, this video might go a little bit longer, guys, but I figure, hey, let's just jump into it. RippleNet now has over 300 bank customers, is making big moves. Europe is working with Ripple to use XRP for its Euro stablecoin, as the UK is partnering with Ripple on its stablecoin project too. Brad Garlinghouse has even mentioned plans for a Japanese yen stablecoin, which we probably will see next year. It's clear that Ripple is building out this ecosystem, connecting global payments in a way we have never seen before.
And again, touching on the Ripple ecosystem, so a bit of context, what is Ripple? So I mentioned the idea of moving value like information moves today. And that's the important concept because our whole vision is very internet centric. So the network we're creating for moving value between banks and between payment companies, if you look at it, it looks like the internet. So we call it an internet of value, both in terms of the digital assets that you can access across that network, and also in how the ledgers in the banks and payment companies connected to that network are coordinated by it in order to enable value to move, balances to be updated in different parts of the world, including cross-border FX in microseconds, and clear into local networks incredibly quickly. So that whole internet model has the advantage of not creating any hub and spoke. There's no big Ripple data center anywhere crunching centralized payment exchanges. We are very much an open network, and we deliver value through the work of the banks and the payment companies and the e-marketplaces which are plugged into Ripple, who then offer those superior services to their own customers, small companies or individuals, large companies, using the power of the Ripple network. And also, any network today that's international cannot succeed without governance. So we established a governance body, the RippleNet Committee. RippleNet customers are members of that community, and these companies adhere to clear rule sets around how information is then exchanged over Ripple. We are big supporters and big implementers of ISO 20022. So that's very much part of everything we do across the network. And that network, again, is governed by the members. So Ripple facilitates that governance, but the governance takes place, is affected by the users of Ripple, what we call our customers worldwide. And we've also implemented blockchain technology in, I think, a very creative way, in that we focused on the cryptographic proof of a transaction and used that to build our internet network that Ripple executes over. And we've also applied the consensus blockchain that underpins the asset XRP to deliver liquidity at need points to specific markets around the world. So you're going to get kind of an ecosystem which is built from scratch, not relying on any legacy networks or legacy componentry, but is a full stack. And that, I think, is the reasons we're able to move so quickly, and why we're able to have such a big impact on delivering value, delivering a really true high speed, immediate payment experience globally.
What he's basically, and this is Marcus Treacher from Ripple, basically what he's saying here is Ripple's built a new financial system, and it uses XRP to move that value instantaneously across the world. Deliver liquidity anywhere you want in seconds. That has always been Ripple's one of their main targets and goals, and they have achieved that. They're about to achieve it at scale, in my personal opinion. I'm really excited to see what happens in 2026, right? Because I got here in like 2020, right? 2019, end of 2019. I didn't start buying until like 2020. And I was still figuring all this stuff out, and it was complicated, and there's so much to learn. And after years go by, you start to really understand this stuff, and you just know that this is about to take place, and you're just witnessing it all. And yes, it happens slower than a lot of people maybe have thought or wanted to, but we're at that transition point where regulation is happening. All of these countries around the world are now competing against each other to become crypto hubs. The technology is here. It is now. And 2026 through 2028 will probably be the most impactful years of our lives. And I'm so excited to experience that with you. And so they told XRP was a scam while the banks were quietly partnering with Ripple. US, UK, Japan, India, Brazil. Institutions aren't waiting for your approval. They're already building with it. A lot of things happening with that. And you know what? I'll play this last clip. Brad Garlinghouse stated that Ripple will utilize their own products, RLUSD, and hints at a RL Japanese yen and an RL Euro. RippleNet ecosystem is being built right in front of your eyes.
That. Are you going to be using that in your own products? How will it compare with XRP?
We absolutely will be using our own products. I mean, a little bit of history on this. Ripple has for years used stablecoins, US dollar stablecoins, in certain corridors, depending upon which currency pairs we're dealing with, customer we're enabling. And frankly, sometimes it has been more efficient. And so we've used Tether in certain circumstances. We've used USDC. In fact, at one point, we were responsible for minting 20% of all USDC. And we kind of realized that there's an opportunity in the market as it continues to grow, to particularly for our customer set around, institutions. We felt like it was an opportunity for us to jump in. Look, I think the as you look at the road ahead around stablecoins, I think the market's going to continue to grow a lot. I think when we decided to launch a stablecoin, it was probably about $120 billion market. Today, I think it's just shy of $200 billion. And, some smart analysts forecast it's going to be a couple trillion in 5 more years. So I think the market is going to continue to grow for sure. Right now, the US dollar is by far the most important stablecoin, but I think you will see some activity in euro, maybe in yen. We shall see how far down that goes. But look, our goal is to make sure that the XRP ledger is the most efficient, the most trusted, the most utility, and having a stablecoin on the XRPL that is robust, efficient, reputable. Ripple has worked with institutions for years now, and I think we have a very trusted brand. And we also have a very large balance sheet that we think, if needed, could be helpful in making the RLUSD or Ripple USD successful.
There it is, guys. That's my best explanation of what's happening here in the UK and parts of Europe, how Ripple is basically the new financial system and being a part of that. And the transition can't come soon enough. Really thankful to be on this journey with you. If you got any value, you can like, you can share, you can leave a comment down below. Just thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm Crypto Sensei. Aloha.